I had an amazing lunch, Peter. How about you?
Oh, I am about to have an amazing lunch right after we finish talking with you all.
Oh, okay. Well, we better cut it short then. I don't know about you. For me, my favorite meal of the day is breakfast. A close second would be lunch. I love that mealtime break when you can go and satisfy your craving, go out in the middle of work and get some yummy food. How about you, listeners? What is your favorite meal of the day? We have a lot of different terms for that late meal in English. There's supper, dinner. Actually, excuse me, can you think of another one? I guess I think of supper and dinner.
Supper and dinner are the main ones. Breakfast is always in the morning, first meal of the day. Breakfast, you break the fast. Fast means to go without eating, and that's what you do when you go to sleep at night. You don't eat, you fast. And so in the morning, the first meal, you break your fast, you have breakfast.
And a fast is a useful word. Sometimes for religions, like a lot of different religions might have a fast where for a while you don't eat something. You could also say, I'm fasting from using my cell phone, or something, if you're taking a break from that. But yeah, break fast, breakfast in the morning. We have this word lunch, of course, that you already know. You're probably familiar with brunch. Do you guys know brunch?
Brunch, I love that word. Brunch is something you don't have to have every day, although maybe some people do. But it is a meal either between breakfast and lunch, brunch.
Brunch, yeah.
Or it is a meal that combines breakfast and lunch into one super meal.
Exactly. And it's really like the popular hipster meal. These days, kids, especially in the US, they wake up late, right? They get up after a long night. They get up at 10:30. They meet up with their friends for brunch at around 11 o'clock.
Especially on a weekend or sometimes a holiday. Like the time I'll most often have brunch is New Year's Day. New Year for the Western calendar, January 1st, because you usually have the day off from work and you usually have been up late the night before. So you tend to wake up later in the morning, and so it's not really time for lunch yet, but you need something to eat, so you have brunch.
And the in-between, there are brunch specials, there are lunch specials, and then we have these two words in English, dinner and supper. And I think there's a regional difference. I know we use the word supper a lot. To sup, S-U-P, isn't one of our vocabs today, but it means to eat. To sup.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is that dinner and supper now do mean basically the same thing, which is usually the third meal of the day. Breakfast, lunch, and then dinner or supper. You'll hear the word applied to both of them. Originally, dinner just meant the biggest meal of the day. And 100 or so years ago or more, for most of history, when most people were farmers of one kind or another, they would have their biggest meal of the day in the middle of the day. They would have it when we have lunch so that they'd have energy to go back and work in the fields all day.
The big one.
Right, the big one. So dinner originally meant what we call lunch. Now it means either dinner or supper.
Interesting. The big meal. And dinner, of course, has the word dine in there. The verb dine means to eat. Hi, B, how are you doing? I like 3 meals a day. Me too. As long as I don't have to do the cooking. Doing the cooking, it's true. It takes it does take a lot of energy to do the cooking. Oftentimes I feel like I also don't have the energy to do the cooking for 3 meals a day. I like an easy breakfast. Alan, hi. I often eat, Alan, crunchy granola with soybean milk for breakfast. I absolutely love this kind of combination. Cereal is very popular in the States, and granola and milk, delicious.
No, I'm a big cereal eater. Love to start my day with a bowl of cereal.
Let's talk about that middle meal of the day, or preparing your meals. First of all, a handy term that you'll see on a lot of health blogs in English, meal prep. Meal prep might not be very complicated English, but the idea is useful as you look at Western culture. Meal prep, we do it around the world. It's to just prepare your meal in advance so that you don't have to cook right when you're about to eat.
Right, you can tie that word prep onto any number of things like meeting prep or travel prep. It just means to prepare. For whatever the word is.
To prep. And so one way of prepping that we know here is the biendang, right? But we refer to a biendang as a bento box. I think we got that from Japanese and English. A bento box is how you'll often hear biendang kind of marketed. And a bento, again, I think that comes from Japanese, but that just means biendang. So you can buy a bento box in the States and you can put your meal. It's an easy way of meal prepping. However, the classic way of meal prepping in the States is something called the lunch pail.
The lunch pail,
Can you explain the lunch pail?
The lunch pail, also known as the lunch box, is something that you see kids mostly, young kids going to school. They carry a colored metal or plastic box of some kind that has their lunch in it, and that is their lunch pail or lunch box. You'll also see it at construction sites. Adult construction workers will get their lunch out of a pail just like that. Nowadays, perhaps they might just as easily get it from a 7-Eleven or some other convenience store, but you'll still see a lot of guys at construction sites with a lunch pail of some kind. Almost looks like a toolbox. It's not usually as colorful or full of stickers as a kid's lunch pail, but that's what it is.
Now the word pail is P-A-I-L, not just pale, P-A-L-E. You could say, oh, I'm so pale, I never go outside. So pale could mean light-skinned, but also P-A-I-L is a kind of bucket. You'd have a milk pail back in the day. The milkman would pour your milk in and put a little metal lid on a metal bucket or a pail, and sometimes you could use that same thing to eat your lunch.
Sure.
Yeah, I often think of construction guys too, like you said.
Right, yeah.
All right, let's talk about some dietary things. You can see that I am a doctor today. Just kidding, don't get me in trouble. I'm not actually a doctor. I only pretend to be one on YouTube. B, is a boxed lunch the same as a bento box? I would say no. Well, yes and no. A bento box is a boxed lunch, but typically is the Japanese style divided specifically with rice, maybe some sushi, maybe some seaweed, or just a very Japanese, or it could be like a Korean or even Taiwanese, Chinese style of lunch.
Right, a bento box would also normally have cooked food in it. A lunch pail, a lunch box would not. That's usually cold food like sandwiches, fruit, crackers, that sort of thing.
Yeah, but a bento box is a lunch box. A lunch box is just more general.
Yeah, they're both boxes, but the question is what kind of food is in it?
Good question. Oh, our poll is coming in. I typically eat, let's see, the poll is, where do you typically eat? It looks like most people typically eat at home, good for you, saving money, and about 50-50 is getting the next most results. Finally, I typically eat and order out is at about a quarter of the people. Yeah, depending on the situation, sometimes time is money, sometimes we just don't like to cook. There is so much good food here in Taiwan. Oh my.
Yes.
Oh my.
I'm in the minority here, actually. I typically eat or I order out. We don't go out to a restaurant. We Uber Eat or Food Panda, something like that, and eat at home. Mainly, though, like you said, it depends on the meal. That's mainly for dinner.
Yeah.
For lunch, I'm normally here at work, and so I just go somewhere in the neighborhood here.
I know for you and your wife, that's time you can spend together. So sometimes just
Exactly.
getting a delicious meal and enjoying it together is a great way to enjoy and take advantage of that time. All right, friends, we've got some science-y terms here, and let's jump into them. What are the different kinds of nutrients in our food? Look on the back of pretty much any box, right? And you will see this in English if you're traveling in the States and you want to figure out how healthy your food is. You look at the black and white diagram, nutrition facts. It's called the nutrition facts. And it'll give you some information. Fats, we know about fats, right? There's saturated versus unsaturated fats. And now I'm totally blanking on which one is which. One, I believe unsaturated fats are liquids
at room temperature.
At room temperature, is that correct?
And
then saturated fats are like butter.
Solid, like butter.
Okay.
At room temperature, or cheese is a saturated fat.
I'm not a very good scientist, but I'm glad we've got Peter here. So typically, unsaturated fats like coconut oil, canola oil are a little bit healthier than their counterparts, like lard or butter or something like that.
We all need some fat during the day. It's not that all fat is bad, but you want to maybe have a little, it's interesting, the research is actually a little divided on this right now. It used to be, until just 5 or 10 years ago, it used to be that saturated fats are bad and unsaturated fats is good, but now it's a little more ambiguous, and that doesn't mean that we can all just close our eyes and eat whatever we like. It just means that we need to keep an eye on the news and the research as it develops, and generally don't have as much saturated fat as you are unsaturated fat, broadly speaking. But it's not as black and white as it used to be, so that's interesting. So keep watching those health headlines.
Yeah. And we, of course, have proteins. If you lift weights, you know all about protein, right? A protein shake. Proteins are made of something called amino acids, and your body needs a certain number of amino acids to build things, right? Those amino acids are the little molecules. And so meat will give you all the amino acids you need. If you're a vegan or vegetarian, you need to just eat more carefully. But those amino acids are the actual little chemicals in protein that are used there. We've got the last one that you probably know, carbs, right? Carbs are short for carbohydrates. And carbohydrates or carbs, that's like sugar or wheat products or just anything that basically gives you energy that breaks down.
And not just sugar like you pour on your coffee or something. This can be natural sugars as well.
Yeah.
There are vegetables that have sugar in them. There are fruits that have sugar in them. Basically, I think it's just animals that don't come with sugar in them when you eat them, like chicken and burgers and pork and stuff like that. But sugar is, because it's easy to think of sugar as, the stuff that we find on Frosted Flakes cereal and stuff like that, or that you have on top of a piece of pie, and it's broader than that.
Yeah, but they're the quickest to break down. So normally your body will break down the carbs in its system sooner. So you don't want to eat too many easy to break down carbs. Anyway, we're not scientists, but hopefully that helps you a little bit when you look at the carbs or carbohydrates on the back of your nutrition facts. Okay, Peter, so we ordered a hamburger from Mega Burger before this, and did it arrive?
It's just arrived.
Oh, okay,
in
good.
Fact. And
it smells so good.
I can't wait because I haven't had lunch yet. So if you don't mind, I'm not going to share this.
You go ahead.
Okay.
My stomach is growling. So I want to talk a little bit about hamburgers because I just got an amazing. Well, it wasn't amazing. It was terrible. I got our family got a photo from my wife's sister-in-law, who is in California right now, enjoying the most famous burger, at least on the West Coast, the In-N-Out Double Double, okay? We've heard of In-N-Out Burger. I don't know if anyone out there actually stood in line for 5 hours and got a Double Double before they sold out. There was an In-N-Out Burger pop up. You remember that?
Here in Taipei?
Here in Dajia, yeah.
An In-N-Out?
An In-N-Out.
I did not know that. That must have just been before I joined here.
So there are lots of different burgers in the U.S. I would say the hamburger is probably the quintessential American food, right?
Even though it's named after a city in Germany. That's America for you.
Yeah, Hamburg in Germany. What does quintessential mean?
Quintessential, it's the essence. If you had to sum up something in terms of its overall character or its nature, you are describing the quintessence of it. And so something that has that quality is quintessential.
Yeah. You know the essence? The essence means like the core of something.
I could say. That's a good word.
The essence of the music of Beethoven is harmonies or something. I don't know. Something like that.
Or the quintessence of classical music is the music of Mozart.
There we go. Yeah, the quintessence. So if something is quintessential, you could say pizza is quintessentially a New York food, and deep dish pizza is quintessentially a Chicagoan food.
Yes.
Something like that.
Sure.
Anyway, but quintessential is kind of a fun word. That means like the very specific thing that defines a place. And there are lots of different burgers. In New York, is there a famous hamburger joint that people need to check out?
I think Shake Shack started in New York.
Ooh, really?
If you consider that a hamburger joint. Apart from that, I don't know of a particular one by name. New York kind of, as with so many things, New York takes it to the next level. New York may not be known for its hamburger joints, but it's known for its steakhouses.
Oh,
a lot of great steakhouses in New York. Peter Luger's among them.
Well, my mouth is watering. I think it's time for lunch. If you haven't got that yet, post your favorite meal below. Also, if there are any like local foods here on the island that we need to check out, let us know, because if I know anything about this place, it is that there's a lot of good food and a lot of very specialized food. Like if you go one town over, you'll find something that's just been rarefied and conditioned till it's like the best of the best. Hi, Selena. I usually have 2 boiled eggs for my brunch as a morning protein assumption. I think you might be looking for the word consumption there. Consumption. Though assumption is actually technically correct, to like assume something. But anyway, first things first.
Consumption would be better, yeah.
Good breakfast, good brunch, because there's nothing like some eggs in the morning that just gives you your nutrients, your amino acids, and gets you going. Yeah, that word assumption is interesting. Sometimes we talk about Normally I'd say if I assume something, it means I kind of guess. I assume that Peter's in a happy mood because he's smiling.
Right. Yeah, I believe it to be true, but I can't confirm it necessarily.
Yeah, whereas consume means to eat food. However, it's interesting to note, to be assumed into something in a more sophisticated way can actually mean kind of consumed. You could say, oh, I was assumed into the company culture, or we talk about, maybe a famous person that has been taken up to heaven. They were the assumption, they're assumed up into heaven, or, they kind of vanish into heaven. So anyway, thank you, Selena, for your comment there. Comment below if you have any other thoughts on food. What are you eating today?
Tell me what I should have for lunch.
Yeah, where should he go? You've got 5 seconds. We appreciate you, and we love you guys. Thank you for subscribing. Hit below. If you haven't joined yet, you do have access to more like podcast listening content. So if you like to jog and listen to English and listen to us process the magazine articles, please do consume. Yes, with an N, consume. Consume. Very good. And guys, I'm so proud of you for practicing your English. Keep it up. Like, we're here as your friends, so just do your best. You guys are doing great. All right, dear listeners, we'll see you next time.